Welcome to Ideagen TV. Today we are ecstatic to have with us the Vice President of Corporate Platforms from the Nasdaq, David Wicks. David, welcome.
Thank you, George. How are you?
You know, David, now that I see you, I'm great. I'm great. And, you know, it's really great to have you on Ideagen TV as part of the Ideagen Acceleration Summit series. You recently kindly accepted the role as chair of Ideagen in New York as we scale globally. And I'd like to see if you'd be willing to share a little bit about yourself before we get into this interview, as well as your roles and responsibilities at the Nasdaq.
Yeah, thank you so much and for inviting me to speak today. And it is truly an honor to be chair of Ideagen New York. So George, I've worked my entire career in the securities industry, and I've worked at Nasdaq for over 25 years. And I feel truly fortunate to kind of be sitting at the forefront of so many changes affecting not only the securities industry, but also global topics like climate change, ESG, and diversity, just to name a few. In my various roles at Nasdaq, I've always worked in our corporate platforms groups, dealing directly with the issuer community and really operating in two capacities. One is providing world-class service and market intelligence to help our corporate clients succeed in the public markets, and two, advocating on their behalf, really to make it easier for them to be a public company. So I'm currently responsible for Nasdaq's East Coast listings. That comprises over 1,700 corporate clients. I manage a team of relationship managers who serve as our listed company's primary point of contact. And as you and the audience might imagine, being a public company can be challenging at times. So really having that Nasdaq champion and advocate is truly appreciated and welcomed by our listed companies. And I mentioned earlier that we provide services to our listed companies, and my team manages that aspect as well. So they work closely with our companies, keeping them apprised of key trends in the marketplace, things like ESG, climate disclosure, regulatory changes, among other topics, and really help them navigate these areas. And then just on a personal basis, switching gears a little bit, when I'm not working, you'll probably find me on the beach. I do live in Jersey. We have some beautiful beaches here. If I'm not on the beach, I might be golfing, or you might find me on a boat fishing somewhere.
That's great. Well, you know, my lifelong passion is I enjoy learning how to play golf. That's in my bio. It's a lifelong learning. I'm an advocate of lifelong learning, and that applies to golf as well. And so, you know, we've seen the Nasdaq's growth, and perhaps even more importantly, the leadership coming out of the Nasdaq. And you just articulated 1,700 plus listings that you're responsible for as part of your corporate, you know, platforms leadership and on the East Coast, and 25 years at the Nasdaq. David, how do you see the Nasdaq's global presence, a true global presence, being a catalyst for helping to achieve those 17 global goals of the United Nations by 2030?
It's a great question, George. And we truly are committed to catalyzing progress towards what we would say a more sustainable tomorrow. So at the epicenter of the capital markets and technology, we're really uniquely positioned to lead the acceleration of ESG excellence, really by empowering communities with strategic solutions that have measurable and lasting impact. So I like to say we not only talk the talk, but we walk the walk. So in addition to providing frequent and robust reporting on our ESG efforts, and really continuously working to identify emerging ESG trends, we really do encourage our employees to participate in our ESG initiatives and engage with our clients and stakeholders to pursue ESG-related opportunities. So as part of our ongoing commitment with respect to carbon neutral, we offset our scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions in 2018 and 2019. We're on track to maintain carbon neutrality going forward. With respect to reporting and rating, Nasdaq's annual reports are in accordance with GRI standards, and our ESG efforts are in the top 7% according to Sustainalytics, which and also we're a signatory of the UN Global Impact and the UN Principles of Responsible Investment. So we just recently published our proxy statement, and we were very pleased to highlight some of the recognition that we received for our work in ESG. And we don't do it for the awards or recognition, but it's certainly nice to be recognized. HRC Corporate Equality Index for the second consecutive year, the Dow Jones Sustainability Index for the fifth consecutive year, the Bloomberg Gender Equality Index, the UN Women Boldest Action of the Year, and Parity.org Best Companies for Women to Advance. So Nasdaq truly integrates sustainability best practices in our global operation. We transparently report progress to our stakeholders and rigorously advocate for better and more actionable capital market standards.
You know, David, that it's just inspiring to hear all of the recognition, the well-deserved recognition, right? You're actually moving the needle. You're setting the standard. You're planting that flag. Like I like to use as an analogy because I like it. It's also a golf analogy. You know, it's foggy, but you can still somewhat see the flag, right? And you know where you're going. And it's a great analogy to understand where we're going with these 17 global goals. And by the way, the global goals are something that all 193 member states of the UN, as you know, including the United States of America, agreed to. And so unprecedented, unanimous decision to focus on these specific 17 global goals, including global partnerships. And that's what I see the Nasdaq also leading in. You're bringing folks together, you're leading, you're galvanizing, and you're setting the tone and the spirit for that direction. And that's why you're getting all of the recognition from organizations that are saying, congratulations, you're actually moving the needle. And that's what's inspiring to us at Ideagen and why we're so honored to be working so closely with you all. And so on that note, you know, I've talked a lot over the years about cross-sector collaboration. I personally and professionally believe that a lot of the world's most vexing issues can be addressed by bringing the sectors together, which is what you do, quite frankly. And in what ways do you, David, see the Nasdaq's cross-sector capabilities as pushing the needle and setting that standard for all companies to invest in things like ESG and eventually to achieve the ultimate goal of these 17 goals with a target by 2030?
Yeah, so I think more than ever before, ESG is becoming really central to corporate strategy. Yet companies are navigating through this massive transition really with fragmented disclosure and honestly without the right tools. And we believe that we can change that. So our strategic vision is really to help companies and the investment community navigate and achieve ESG excellence through technology, data, and marketplace solutions. So we really want to empower corporates and the investment community with technology and capital market solutions that support transparency, reduce friction, and drive impact on their decision-making process. And we do that through a number of ways, and I'll just touch upon a couple. Our ESG advisory practice pairs consulting engagement with ESG expertise to help companies really analyze, assess, and action best practices, ESG programs with the goals of attracting long-term capital and enhancing value. Our Nasdaq One report simplifies the process of ESG data capture, engagement, oversight, and disclosure. And our eVestment's new ESG questionnaire offers more robust quantitative and qualitative data providing a deeper understanding of how ESG managers implement their approaches and really what drives their decision-making process. In December 2019, we launched the Nasdaq Sustainable Bond Network, which includes data on 4,500 bonds, as well as allocation and impact data for over 250 sustainable bond issuers from 27 countries and multinational entities. And lastly, which we're very proud of, is we filed a new proposed US listing requirement with the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, and that seeks to standardize board level diversity statistics through a consistent disclosure framework. So the proposal includes a recommended minimum diversity goal of 2 diverse directors through a comply or explain framework. And while we're waiting for final SEC approval, what's really interesting to note, 19 companies have already incorporated and started using our diversity matrix. And I don't think there has ever been a proposed listing requirement in Nasdaq's history where the issuer community, and this is both Nasdaq and New York Stock Exchange, has adopted the rule ahead of its implementation and it being approved. And I think it really shows the importance of how public companies are not only thinking about, but actually incorporating ESG best practices into their own operations.
Well, and David, what you just articulated is, it's also good for business, right? So doing good can also be good for the company on so many different ways and across the board. And for the communities those companies operate in, et cetera. And so I think we're seeing a sea change because, for example, on the gender equality issue, it's $1 trillion global opportunity, as many people have identified on a true dollar basis. And so it's not taking away from the economy, it's adding to the economy globally. And that's a powerful way to look at things, in addition to the fact that there should be gender equality at a baseline, right, in terms of that issue. And so curious to see how you have seen cooperation amongst executives and leaders across business in terms of, you just alluded to it, in terms of prioritizing different aspects of ESG and their respective impacts on their companies and the communities, and specifically in New York City, for example.
New York City is such a great and diverse city. And honestly, Nasdaq is proud to call New York City home to its headquarters. I would also say that cooperation among business leaders that I've seen has never been greater. Nasdaq has been involved in a number of New York City ESG related engagements, including Climate Week NYC, the Climate Change Forum, which was a New York City Chamber of Commerce event, Bloomberg LP and Bloomberg Philanthropies climate action meetings. And what was really, really cool, more than 2.2 million individuals and 2,000 businesses, including Nasdaq, turned out their lights for the first ever Earth Hour event. We've also have a partnership with New York Cares, where we've had more than 100 localized teams volunteering at events around the city. We've hosted dozens of bell ceremonies in our market site in Times Square for climate-focused organizations. We've had a big sleep out in Times Square focused on New York City homelessness, where our CEO, Adina Friedman, participated and slept out in Times Square. And we've worked with the Bowery Mission and other iconic New York City charities to raise awareness for vulnerable local populations. And George, I think in all these events, the people and business leaders in New York City are passionate about participating and really sharing their experiences to promote a better New York. I'm also fortunate to sit on the Times Square Alliance board and really witness firsthand how New York City businesses are coming together to talk about prioritizing different aspects of ESG and really discuss the impacts on the companies and communities in New York City. So I feel fortunate to work in the best city in the world and truly believe the best is yet to come.
I love that. I love that. You do work in one of the best cities in the world, if not the best city in the world. And it sounds like you're a proud New Yorker, which you are. We know you are. David Wicks, Vice President for Corporate Platforms at the Nasdaq. Thank you so very much for joining us today on Ideagen TV. Thank you for serving as Ideagen Chair of New York. What is your call to action as we continue to build a more sustainable world, and how can folks find out more about your work at the Nasdaq?
George, it really is simple, and I think it can be summed up in 2 words. It is get involved, right? At the end of the day, we're all in this beautiful planet together. We need to recognize that ending poverty and other deprivations have to go hand in hand with strategies that improve health, education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth. If people do want to know more about kind of the NASDAQ ESG story, they can simply go to nasdaq.com/ESG and learn about everything that we're doing and participating in.
Incredible. David Wicks, Vice President, Corporate Platforms at the Nasdaq, thought leader, setting the tone and changing the world. David, thank you.
You're welcome, George. A pleasure to be with you.
Always our pleasure.